There is a simple joy every gardener feels when they plunge a trowel into the soil and find it teeming with earthworms. We see them as a sure sign of a healthy, fertile garden, a wriggling army working tirelessly on our behalf. For generations, we have been taught that where there are worms, there is good soil. They are indeed marvelous creatures, burrowing through the ground, aerating it, and leaving behind their precious castings. This activity certainly improves the soil structure, making it easier for plant roots to grow and for water to penetrate. We often assume their presence alone guarantees the rich, dark, loamy humus we all crave for our plants. However, this is a common misunderstanding, a slight simplification of a much more intricate story. While earthworms are brilliant indicators and helpers, they are not the sole creators of true, stable humus. Their role is more like that of a tireless factory worker than the master architect. They consume organic matter such as fallen leaves and dead roots and process it through their digestive systems. What comes out the other end, their castings, is a wonderfully nutrient-rich substance. But these castings are not humus, and they are a fantastic, fast-acting fertilizer, but they break down relatively quickly in the soil, releasing their goodness for plants to use straight away. True humus is something else entirely. It is the holy grail of soil health. It is a complex, stable, and long-lasting form of carbon that gives topsoil its characteristic dark, crumbly texture and sweet, earthy smell. Think of it as the very soul of the soil. Humus acts like a sponge, holding on to water and nutrients, preventing them from being washed away by rain. It is this stability that makes it so valuable. While worm castings provide a fleeting boost, humus provides a deep, enduring foundation for a thriving garden ecosystem that will sustain healthy plant growth for years, not just a single season. So, if worms are not the primary producers of this magical substance, what are we missing? The secret lies in a world far too small for us to see with the naked eye. The real work of creating lasting humus is performed by a vast and diverse community of microscopic organisms, particularly fungi and bacteria. The worms are simply the first stage of the process, shredding and mixing the raw materials. They begin the decomposition journey, but it is the microbes that complete it, transforming simple organic matter into the complex, stable carbon structures that define genuine humus. It is a partnership, with worms as the mixers and microbes as the master builders. To understand how to create humus, we must first appreciate the difference between the various organic materials in our gardens. Compost, for instance, is a wonderful soil amendment we all make. It is decomposed organic matter, full of nutrients and beneficial life. Worm castings are even more refined, a supercharged version of compost, but both are still active and breaking down. Humus, on the other hand, is the final, stable end product of this entire decomposition process. It is what remains after the bacteria and fungi have worked their slow magic, a process that can take many years in nature. It is no longer food for microbes, but a permanent part of the soil structure. The key players in this transformation are the fungi, especially a group called mycorrhizal fungi. Their long, thread-like structures, known as hyphae, spread through the soil like a vast, intricate web. These fungi form a symbiotic relationship with plant roots, helping them to draw up water and minerals. In return, the plants feed the fungi with carbon-rich sugars. The fungi then use this carbon, along with other decaying materials, to create glomalin, a sticky protein-like substance. This glomalin acts as a superglue, binding soil particles together into stable aggregates and forming the very building blocks of long-lasting humus. This process highlights why just adding soft, green, nitrogen-rich materials to your wormery or compost heap is not enough. Worms adore things like kitchen scraps and soft green clippings, and they will process them with gusto. However, this creates a nutrient-rich but carbon-poor environment. It produces excellent fertilizer, but it lacks the tough, woody, carbon-based materials that fungi need to thrive and build stable humus. To truly build your soil for the long term, you need to feed not just the worms, but the entire microscopic food web that lives alongside them, especially the fungi. Therefore, our goal as gardeners should be to facilitate this natural process. We need to provide a balanced diet for the entire soil community. This means moving beyond simply encouraging worms and starting to think about cultivating a healthy fungal network. By providing the right ingredients, we can help these microscopic architects do what they do best: build a resilient, water-retentive, and deeply fertile soil structure. This is not about getting quick results, but about investing in the long-term health and vitality of your garden, creating a legacy of living soil for the future. Creating the perfect conditions for humus formation is all about balance. The microbes in your soil need a varied menu, and the most important recipe to remember is the ratio of carbon to nitrogen. A good rule of thumb is to aim for roughly 2 parts carbon-rich material to 1 part nitrogen-rich material. We often have plenty of nitrogen sources in the garden: fresh grass clippings, kitchen vegetable scraps, and manure from chickens or horses. These are the greens. They are soft, moist, and break down quickly, providing a rapid release of nutrients that plants and worms love. But the carbon component is just as crucial, and often overlooked. These are the browns. Think of materials that are dry, tough, and woody. Things like autumn leaves, straw, shredded cardboard, wood chippings, or small twigs are all excellent sources of carbon. These materials take much longer to decompose and provide the essential building blocks for fungi to create stable humus. They are the slow-release energy source for the soil ecosystem. Without enough carbon, your compost pile or garden bed will become a sludgy, smelly mess, rather than a sweet-smelling factory for good soil. A practical way to apply this is by layering. When you are adding materials to your compost heap or directly onto a garden bed for mulching, alternate between layers of greens and browns. For instance, after adding a layer of kitchen scraps or grass clippings, your nitrogen, cover it with a thicker layer of shredded dry leaves or torn-up cardboard, your carbon. This method not only provides a balanced diet for the microbes but also helps to keep the pile aerated and prevents it from becoming too wet and compacted, which is essential for healthy decomposition. Furthermore, we must not forget the minerals. True humus formation requires a wide array of trace minerals that are often depleted in garden soils. These are the micronutrients that act as catalysts for the complex biochemical reactions carried out by microbes. Adding a sprinkle of rock dust, such as basalt dust, to your compost or directly to your soil can make a world of difference. This provides the essential grit in the system, the elements needed to build those strong, stable humus molecules. It is like adding the right herbs and spices to a meal. It completes the dish. Once you have provided the right ingredients, you also need to ensure the environment is right. The soil ecosystem, from worms to microbes, needs consistent moisture to function. Soil that is allowed to completely dry out will cause this life to go dormant or die off, halting the humus building process. On the other hand, waterlogged soil will drive out air, favoring anaerobic bacteria that can produce substances harmful to plant roots. The aim is for soil that feels like a wrung-out sponge, moist to the touch, but not soggy. Regular, deep watering is far better than a light daily sprinkle. A simple way to maintain this crucial moisture balance and to keep the soil cool is to use a mulch. Applying a thick layer of organic material over the surface of your soil is one of the best things you can do for your garden. A mulch of straw, wood chips, or even just fallen leaves will insulate the soil from the baking sun, drastically reduce water evaporation, and suppress weed growth. As this mulch slowly breaks down, it provides a continuous, slow and steady supply of carbon-rich food for the worms and microbes below, feeding the humus-making factory from the top down. It is important to remember that building humus is a slow, organic process. It is not something that can be rushed. Overfeeding your soil, especially with too much soft, nitrogen-rich material, can be counterproductive. It encourages a boom and bust cycle of bacteria rather than the slow, steady work of fungi. Patience is the gardener's greatest virtue. By consistently adding a balanced mix of carbon and nitrogen, keeping the soil moist, and adding minerals, you are creating the ideal habitat for a thriving soil food web. The visible results may not appear in a week or a month, but over the seasons, you will notice the change. In the end, the secret to creating that beautiful, dark, and fertile humus is not a single trick, but a holistic approach. It is about understanding that your garden is a complex ecosystem. Earthworms are your valuable partners, but they are part of a much larger team. By feeding the entire community, worms, bacteria, and especially fungi, with a balanced diet of browns and greens, providing minerals, and maintaining a moist, protected environment, you will be rewarded. Your soil will become darker, more crumbly, and better at holding water, and your plants will be healthier and more resilient than ever before. That is the true reward of patient gardening.